Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I'd like to do a little more philosophical video and kind of try and give a little bit of perspective by discussing the idea of the curve of diminishing returns. This is going to be old hand to a lot of folks who already know what's, been in the hobby for a while now. But the simple fact is that the curve of diminishing returns is a huge deal in pocket knives, in watches, in flashlights, and pretty much in everything in life. There's always a point. So let me just kind of jump into it and talk a little bit about what I mean by that. So in our minds, we have this understanding of the relationship between the amount of money you spend and the quality of whatever you're getting. And it has to be the case, because if you spend more money and don't get less quality and don't get more quality in return, you're going to feel ripped off. That's a problem. And the basic idea is that when you spend a little bit more money, you get a little bit more quality. But that's actually a really complicated relationship, and so I want to talk a little bit about that. The basic idea that a lot of people have, especially if they're brand new to the hobby, is that it's kind of a line. And, down here is your really junky stuff, your Z-Hunters in the world. And up here is your really high-end stuff, your Norsemans of the world. And the idea is that, as you spend more money, every time you spend more money, you get an improvement in quality. If you spend $100, you go up. If you spend another $100, you go up more. Spend another, and so forth and so forth. And it just keeps getting awesomer and awesomer. And that's a beautiful idea, and it's a simple view of the world, and I really wish it were true. But unfortunately, that's not the case really at all, at least in the pocket knife world. Frankly, it's very seldom the case in any world. There's always a point where if you spend more money, you're not really getting that much more in return. And so I want to talk a little bit about what this actually looks like. Instead of a straight line, what you get is a curve like this, where there are quite literally diminishing returns. The first $50 you spend results in a huge gain in quality. More concretely, if you have a Z-Hunter, and then you go up to an Ontario Rat number 1 in D2 steel, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. The huge difference in quality between these guys. It's absolutely gigantic. This is terrible. This is pretty damn good. And so, that's a huge jump. And that's what you get when you spend that first $50. But when you spend the next $50, when you go from something like your Rat 1 up to something like your PM2, maybe a little bit more than $50, you've definitely still made an improvement in pretty much every way. The locking mechanism is better, the steel is a little bit better, the ergonomics are better. It's just a better knife, honestly. But the thing is, it's only about this amount better, whereas the last $50 got you this amount. Then when you go from something that's $100 up to something that's closer to $200, there's a huge improvement. So when you go from your PM2 up to your ZT 452CF, this is a much better knife, in my opinion, than the PM2. Maybe not for all purposes, but in terms of overall quality, this is better. But the thing is, it's only about this much better. It's not a huge improvement, and the difference between these two knives is less than the difference between these two knives. It's just a fact of life. And unfortunately, then, when you go up to your $200 knife and you move up to a $300 knife, again, there's a definite improvement. I like the Sleesh Bowie a lot more than I like the 452. The 452's got some flaws. The Sleesh Bowie is really damn good. But the thing is, it's not a huge amount of change here. And the same thing goes up if you go up to $400, so you move into the tie lock. Yeah, it's a little bit better, but it's not that much better. But it is still better, no doubt. And then as you keep going up, maybe you get into your Norseman territory, and then you head off into custom territory. Each time that you spend more money on this high end, you're getting a smaller improvement. You're still getting better, by and large, unless you're getting ripped off. But that's something you got to keep in mind, that the improvement here falls off. So it's not the case that if you got a $200 knife and you spend another $200, you're going to get this same improvement. And that can be a little sad and a little frightening to people. At the end of the day, it kind of comes down to a matter of perspective. If you're looking at the full scale, then you're in a much better position to judge. This is why I did the Thrifty Thursday competition, where I looked at a bunch of budget knives under $35. Not so much for you guys, although, hey, why not? But more for me, so I can remember exactly what is going on at this low end. I can remember the junk, and I can remember the gems. Same thing, this is the reason why the Z-Hunter sticks around. Not because I'm secretly in love with it, although I'll admit some days there are feelings. but I keep them suppressed. But because something that's really excellent, like your Greensmo Norseman, your Shirogorov Neon, only really makes sense and is in a proper perspective when it's contrasted with something that's a total piece of crap. These two things need to be in opposition, or things like them, in order for any of them to make sense. In order to define good, you need to define evil. Sorry, Z Hunter. I know you mean well. But nonetheless, and so it's really, really easy to lose that perspective, especially as a reviewer. When I'm spending most of my time looking at this kind of a range, it's really easy for me to make huge sweeping claims like, oh my God, this is a great knife, but the Sleesh Bowie is so much better. Yeah, in my weird little perspective, it's kind of true. But they're both astoundingly good. And similarly, well, yeah, Sleesh Bowie's nice, but then there's the Norseman. And in reality, you're dealing with a little tiny difference here, but in my weird little brain, it's amplified. And so, yeah, it is a matter of perspective, I suppose, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. The thing is, it's really easy to lose this perspective when you're in the knife world. Whether you're on the Instagram, whether you're on the Blade forums, the Knife Club, or you're just watching a bunch of YouTube videos from random jackasses who collect high-end knives. It's really easy to kind of forget about this chunk of the curve here. And that leads to some sad things. Every so often you'll see on like the Reddit or the Blade forum, somebody who will post their collection. And their collection will be something that's small but respectable. Something like maybe a Rat 1 and a Spyderco Dragonfly. But then they'll accompany it with these really sad sounding passages like, I know I don't have any high-end knives. Someday I'll get a good knife, but this is what I've got at the moment. And, I know it doesn't deserve to be up here with you guys. And someday I'm going to save up and I'm going to get a Norseman or I'm going to get a Sleesh Bowie. But, hopefully still, I kind of like these knives a lot, I guess. And there's this sense of shame, and I just want to run up and give these guys a hug because, holy crap, you've got a great collection. Don't beat yourself up. If you think about it even just a little bit, and you focus on finding the knives that are above the curve, that are doing better than their value, you can get a great collection. And honestly, right here, you're like 75% of the overall awesomeness, which are the two Rat 1. Dragonfly, you're closer to like 85% of the overall awesomeness available. If you have these two knives, your collection is 85% as good as mine in every functional sense. Maybe if you want art, you want to go a little higher, but come on, don't beat yourself up. It's really easy to do really well at the low end. And then that kind of gets to the whole cost carry comfort curve and the idea that people you'll see, it's usually the same person saying, oh, one day I'm going to get a Sleesh Bowie. I'll just need to save up for 6 years to do it. And it's just like, okay, you're already here and you want to go here? Is that worth 6 years of savings? It's maybe an exaggeration, but still. And so I don't know, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that perspective and reassure the people who are going on the low end that you're still doing a great job. As long as you're thinking about it, you're trying to find the gems, you're going to be happy. And you can be happy. And honestly, you can be proud. Because you're not the stupid one like me who looks at this and goes, you know what, actually, I'm going to spend an additional $500 for this much improvement. So there you go. Just a quick note. This curve will actually look a little bit different for other types of gear. I mean, it looks different for everything. Cars, every kind of thing has this. For me, in my opinion, flashlights, I think, hit that point of, diminishing returns about $50. A $50, $60 flashlight's going to be all the flashlight you really need. And as you pass like $100, you're in an area where you're really damn close to perfection. Sure, you can keep going up there. You get slight improvements in fit and finish, and you can do the custom light game, sure, but then you're buying art. You're not buying a functional improvement. So, you don't even have to spend $200 in a flashlight to get 90% of the way there. And sometimes the curves are a little more complex. This is what I think quartz watches look like. Basically, if you spend anywhere up to $50, you're going to get improvements, going to get a better case, better reliability, things like that. But like from $50 to $150, there's not a lot going on. By and large, it's the same movement in slightly different cases. But once you hit about 150, you start taking off again. You start getting actual improvements, things like solar, things like radio control, and just sapphire crystals, better bracelets, things like that. And so there is improvement to be had. But again, it starts to settle off. So, you're going to have to think about this for every single piece of EDC gear in your life. You can't just think about it and it's just being one curve. And mechanical watches, the curve is entirely different because it goes up to $5 million, and there's nothing really worth a damn under like $200. So I don't know. There you go. That's kind of the idea of the curve of diminishing returns. It's a real thing in the knife world and everywhere else. And the thing is, if you look at the world in this way, if you think that every dollar you spend is coming back to you in equal measure, you're going to make some weird decisions, and unfortunately, you're going to really dislike what you have in a way that I don't think is merited. So love what you've got in a lot of ways. Remember, certainly in the knife world, but remember that you're already most of the way there, if you're a little bit of the way there. And everything else on top of that is gravy, and it's crazy people like myself chasing the dragon, chasing something we can never quite achieve, which is a true sense of perfection and happiness through material goods, which usually doesn't work out in the end anyways. But hey, I enjoy it. What can I say? I hope this has been interesting to you. Again, sorry, a bunch of you probably already knew this. And have yourselves a wonderful day and take pride in what you got, because you're probably doing pretty damn good if you give anything approximating a damn. Bye now.